Everyone, welcome to Woodstock City Council, May 1st, 2025. This hybrid meeting is being held in person here in council chambers and electronically in accordance with section 238, subsection 3.3 of the Municipal Act and section 16.6.24 of the City of Woodstock Procedure Bylaw. This meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube channel, and recording will be posted on the city's website following the meeting. An agenda of the meeting can be found on the agendas, meetings, and minutes page of the city's website. And all councilors are in attendance, none attending virtually. Before we get into it, I do have a proclamation I'd like to read, and I'm going to come down. This is a little lengthy, so bear with me here. Whereas the City of Woodstock acknowledges the ongoing national crisis of violence against Indigenous women, girls, and two-spirit, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, intersex, and asexual plus, well, better known as 2SLGBTQIA plus people, an injustice demanding urgent attention and action within our community and across Canada. And whereas City of Woodstock has previously recognized gender-based violence as an epidemic, and whereas statistics consistently demonstrate that Indigenous women, girls, and 2SLGBTQIA plus people face significantly higher rates of violence, homicide, and human trafficking, rooted in systemic discrimination and the ongoing legacy of colonism. And whereas the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls, MMIWG, issued 231 calls for justice, and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada issued 94 calls to action, creating clear mandates for all levels of government, including municipalities, to take substantive actions towards reconciliation and ending violence against Indigenous people. And whereas May 5th is recognized nationally as Red Dress Day, a day to honor the memory of missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and two-spirit people, to provide space for the grief of families and communities, and to raise public awareness about this critical issue. And whereas acknowledging and commemorating May 5th is a vital step, but must be accompanied by tangible actions that demonstrate solidarity, respect, partnership, and an unwavering commitment to the safety, dignity, and well-being of Indigenous people. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Jerry Accioni, Mayor of the City of Woodstock, do hereby proclaim May 5th annually as National Day of Awareness for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, Girls, and Two-Spirit People, MMIWG2S plus Red Dress Day, in the City of Woodstock, dated this first day of May, 2025. And I'd like to thank organizations, including ISA and Oxford, for their efforts to raise awareness of this important crisis, which the final report on the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls, Reclaiming Power and Place, constitutes a genocide. And I encourage all residents to honor this day, learn about the MMIWG2S plus crisis, support survivors and families, and join the city in its commitment to meaningful action, partnership, and reconciliation. Thanks, everybody. And I'd like to give this to you. Very much. Okay. Okay, we did have a closed session. It started at 1 o'clock and we were done by 1:06. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Councillor Tate?
I, Councillor Tate, declare the following potential deemed indirect pecuniary interest. Agenda item number 14B1, Dundas Street Redevelopment Phase 2, contract number 11247, tender award. I have an indirect conflict as my son is employed by one of the contractors that bid on the job.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
I, Councillor Wismer Van Meer, declare the following potential deemed direct pecuniary interest for agenda item number 17.A, new business additional community grant funding. I am a full-time employee at Big Brothers Big Sisters of Oxford County, which is mentioned to receive additional grant funding in the motion.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Leatherborough.
I, Councillor Kate Leatherbarrow, declare the following potential indirect pecuniary interest, agenda item number 14B1, subject matter Dundas Street Redevelopment Phase 2, contract number 11247, tender award, the general nature, I operated business adjacent to Phase 2.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. Disclosure of new business. Not aware of any matters arising from the minutes. And that brings us to the minutes. Councillor Tate.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Lauder, that the minutes of the regular meeting of Woodstock City Council held on April 17th, 2025, and the minutes of the special meeting of Woodstock City Council held on April 24th, 2025 be adopted.
Thank you. Any questions with those? Seeing none. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. There are no additions to the agenda, no presentations, but of course we do have some delegations. I will remind delegations that you have 5 minutes, and then of course we'll open it up to questions afterwards. First off, we're going to start with 8A, Tammy Murray, Oxford County Pride Committee. And this is for Museum Square banner request. Welcome.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you all for having me today. I'm very, very grateful. Just need to read from my phone here. So today I'm here to present to you all the purchasing of some banners for Museum Square. We are looking at actually purchasing 4 banners for the flag poles that are in the area of Museum Square. This is hopefully going to be a part of the beautification of downtown Woodstock as well. I have been in working with the Parks and Forestry, I think, Parks and Rec. Just noticed you changed your name. And we have the quote of 110 per banner. We do have the sizes of the banner, 24 by 47, with a 3.5 pocket. They are custom to the banners that you currently have. And we would be working with Parks and Rec to make sure that the design and everything is appropriate. And I do have some pins of the exact design that I'm looking for in this. We are looking for the Progress Pride flag with the intersect circle in the top of it. I will hand all of you one of these so you have a copy of that as well. And we are willing to fulfill the full cost of those banners as well on behalf of Oxford County Pride and our beautification for downtown. Ideally, we would like to get these up by June, ideally. But depending on the turnaround, it might be prior to the Family Day event on June 14th. So we are seeking your approval to purchase 4 banners. 1 banner would go on the corner of Finkel Street, 2 right in front of Museum Square from my assessment, and 1 in the corner of this building. I believe this is Reeve Street and Dundas Street as well.
Thank you. Any questions of Ms. Murray? Seeing none? Okay, you answered mine with the location.
Perfect.
So thank
Easy.
you.
All right. And hopefully we can get a quick turnaround so we can get ready, get going on the design and get them up before June, ideally. Thank you all for your time, energy, and attention. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Looking for a motion on the floor? Councillor Martin?
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. That Woodstock City Council approves the request from Oxford County Pride Committee to display banners on various poles in Museum Square for the month of June 2025, subject to staff approval, and further that City Council directs staff to prepare a report regarding updates to Council Policy GA012, raising of community flags and lowering of flags to half-mast, to also allow banners on various poles in Museum Square in addition to the municipal flagpole.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Counselor Wismer Van Meer, discussion? Would you like to speak to that, Counselor Martin?
Yeah, I guess I added the and further that we review the policy. I don't know exactly what the policy will come back and recommend, and we'll debate that at that time. But I think that approving this opportunity kind of as a one-time for now, for June of 2025, and then evaluating what this would look like for all organizations in the community going forward as it pertains to our policy would be prudent.
Thank you. Counselor Schanberg.
Yeah, from the mayor to whoever could best answer the question. These banners would be placed in the same spot, for example, where Remembrance Day banners currently appear, but in those four specific locations as outlined by the delegation?
She did mention where the location was where they wanted, and those are typically locations that we put banners for the Navy veterans or the veterans. Specifically, I'd have to go look at the boards, and I don't know anybody else that can answer that any clearer than that. Is that okay, Councilor Schanberg? That answer your question? Okay. Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. Next up, I'd welcome Patricia Marshall DeSuter and Joanne Patelski, ISAN Network. Welcome.
Bonjour, ani Woodstock City Council. Ikito no kichirakwe nindishnakas, nish manduag beneze nindorum, Isan Red Director. I'd like to acknowledge that we're gathered on the traditional territories of the Haudenosaunee, Lenape, and Anishinaabeg peoples. My name is She Uses Her Words to Defend the People, also known as Patricia. I am a Two-Spirit member of the Thunderbird clan, as well as a survivor of human trafficking and attempted femicide. Today, I'm here with Joanna Pietkowski, representing Isan Oxford, to address an ongoing national crisis that profoundly impacts communities everywhere. We come before you today with heavy hearts, acknowledging deep gratitude to use our voices in this space when so many cannot, and holding hope for partnership and a safer future. We recognize that Woodstock previously proclaimed gender-based violence an epidemic. Therefore, addressing and raising awareness of all forms of GBV is imperative. It's essential that we also draw attention to the staggering rates of violence against Indigenous women, girls, Two-Spirit, and LGBTQIA people, otherwise known as the MMIW G2S crisis. This isn't just an abstract issue or distant headline. It's about stolen lives, shattered families, and communities living with grief and fear. Statistics Canada consistently shows us the devastating reality. Indigenous women are significantly more likely to experience violence and are tragically overrepresented in GBV statistics. 50% of all human trafficking victims in cases in Canada are Indigenous people. They are 12 times more likely to be victims of femicide and 16 times more likely to go missing. 7 out of every 10 Indigenous women have reported experiencing intimate partner violence, and 50% of all Indigenous women have reported sexual assault in their lifetime, along with 73% of Two-Spirit peoples experiencing violence. This violence is fueled by deep-rooted systemic discrimination and colonialism, as outlined in the 4 pathways to violence found in the 2019 MMIW final report, which also unequivocally states that this crisis constitutes a genocide. This finding demands our attention and, more importantly, our action. Our purpose today is to seek the City of Woodstock's partnership in acknowledging this crisis and actively participating on the journey towards healing and justice. A vital part of this journey is commemoration. May 5th, known nationally as Red Dress Day, is a powerful day of awareness for MMIW G2+. Commemorating this day provides essential space for families to grieve, for communities to honor loved ones, and to educate the wider public. It is a visible commitment that says, we see you and we demand an end to this violence. Our call for partnership is grounded not only in moral responsibility, but also in clear mandates. The national inquiry itself included 231 calls for justice, a blueprint for ending this genocide. Call for Justice 1.1 sets the stage and explicitly calls upon all levels of government, including municipalities like Woodstock, to implement these calls. Furthermore, Canada has adopted UNDRIP, which affirms Indigenous peoples' fundamental rights to life, security, freedom from discrimination, and the right to practice their culture and ceremonies, including memorials. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission also laid out a path forward. Call to Action 43 urges municipal governments to fully implement UNDRIP, along with the spirit of Calls to Action 57, 79, and 80, which support education, commemoration, and dedicating days of remembrance. These frameworks clearly establish a role and responsibility for Woodstock City Council. Addressing the MMIW G2S crisis locally isn't just something nice to do, it's a tangible, necessary act of reconciliation. Supporting Indigenous-led initiatives honors the principle of self-determination enshrined in UNDRIP, and by proclaiming May 5th like you just did, and by partnering with us in commemoration, and by actively working towards reconciliation, Woodstock sends a powerful message of solidarity, respect, and unwavering commitment to the safety and well-being of all its residents and neighbors, particularly Indigenous peoples. We come to you today not just with concerns, but with specific, actionable requests for partnership. Ending this violence and walking the true path of reconciliation requires all of us working together, which in turn will build a safer and more just future for everyone in our community. Miigwech, and thank you for your time and consideration. Joanna will now summarize and reiterate our specific requests.
Thank you. To summarize and build on what Patricia just shared, we are here today with a call for meaningful partnership rooted in truth, accountability, and action. We've heard the devastating realities of the MMIW G2S plus crisis, realities that demand more than awareness. They require concrete steps. As a city that has already acknowledged gender-based violence as an epidemic, Woodstock is positioned to lead in addressing the unique and disproportionate violence faced by Indigenous women, girls, and 2S LGBTQ IA plus people. Today, we respectfully ask the City of Woodstock to officially recognize May 5th annually through a proclamation, which you've done, and thank you very much for doing that. To commit to partnership by actively supporting and participating in the local May 5th memorial event and maintaining ongoing collaboration with Indigenous community partners. To demonstrate tangible reconciliation by facilitating free access to city spaces for Indigenous cultural and commemorative events, following the lead of neighboring municipalities who have made similar commitments. And lastly, to embrace active reconciliation through continued relationship building with local Indigenous communities and organizations grounded in respect, accountability, and learning. By taking these steps, Woodstock can show that true allyship looks like, moving beyond symbolism into sustained action. As settlers and guests on this land, we have a collective responsibility to support Indigenous-led efforts and uphold the calls to justice and reconciliation already laid out by national and international frameworks. Reconciliation is not a one-time event. It is an ongoing journey. And today we invite you to walk that path with us. Miigwech, thank you, and we open the space for any questions.
Thank you. Miigwech. Any questions? Councillor Schattenberg.
Yeah, I guess first of all, I'm just curious if the delegation had a presentation or a PowerPoint to put on, if it's on the computer screen or not.
I did. It was just made with Google Slides, and unfortunately, I was told that the system can't support a Google slideshow.
Oh, okay, no, fair enough. So it is on our agenda if anybody at home wants to follow along or look at it later on the agenda for the city of Woodstock, the presentation. And I guess my first question is, May 5th being Red Dress Day, what's the kind of the storyline behind that, if you give me that?
Yeah, so it was started by a Métis artist named Jamie Black, and she did this to commemorate all of those that we love and have lost and those that we're still searching for. We use red as it's the color that the spirits are able to see. And so it's inviting them to remind them that we still remember them and we still acknowledge them and we're still searching. And we leave them hanging empty to represent the lost and stolen lives that are missing.
And there's other ceremonies and other awareness projects like the sunrise ceremony that you do at Piddock Conservation Area. That is set again for 2025 to take place?
Yeah, on September 30th at 7 a.m.
Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Tate.
Through the chair, I didn't really have a question. I just wanted to thank you for coming forward. I think it's really important to keep the awareness up. My son works out west and his one roommate is Indigenous. She just found her mother. So we're talking about like the kids now, like it's generations. I don't know if she'll be able to contact her, but at least she's found her grandmother. But there's about 4 or 5 girls that he works with, and some of their stories are horrific. So it's good to bring awareness as much as possible, because it's not something that's happened, it's still happening.
Chimiwech.
Mhm. Counselor Martin?
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for coming forward, and thank you for connecting with each of us to talk about this before today, because you were given 5 minutes, which is a very small amount of time to communicate something that's so incredibly important. One of your recommendations to us today, item number 4, was facilitating access to reconciliation and making community spaces, specifically municipally owned spaces, free to access. I just wanted to mention this, the timing of this is really interesting, because as a member of the Safe and Well Oxford Steering Committee, we have been talking about this. In fact, we just passed a motion recommending that exactly this, not just for Truth and Reconciliation, but for various community groups looking to access municipal spaces. That motion will be circulated to all of the 8 municipalities for their consideration, so that throughout the county, we can facilitate conversations like this. So I wanted to specifically put that on your radar, that work is underway, and to connect with Safe and Well Oxford to see how your organization can be a part of that. So, and then the county is also just, if I recall, approved funding for the development of an Indigenous consultation plan. So I think that is just either RFP is out or has just closed. So, I feel like this is a movement where I acknowledge to you, I don't know what next steps to take, but I feel like we are starting to take some steps as a result of your work and your advocacy.
Thank
So stay with it.
Thank you very much. Am I allowed to respond to that? Okay. I just wanted to say that I deeply appreciate that. And I think that as organizations that are collaborations between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people, I think that it helps set an example for our community of how we can work together. And as a reminder that we're all part of the medicine wheel. And when we work towards reconciliation, it's not only going to benefit the lives of Indigenous peoples, it's going to end up benefiting the lives of every single individual who calls Canada home. So, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Counselor Leatherborough?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you both for the presentation. I did have residents email me a couple questions, so I'm going to ask them to either of you. So the first is, further to the point about Woodstock having already declared gender-based violence an epidemic, could you expand on why recognizing and addressing the specific crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people is not just related, but an absolutely essential component if we are serious about tackling gender-based violence comprehensively in our community?
So I would say that the most important factor of that would be that MMIW is actually one of the most extreme, well, is the most extreme form of gender-based violence, considering the fact that it's murdered and missing and exploited individuals. And the fact that we are overrepresented in the stats, I think that it really shows that there's disparities and gaps within the systems. And I know municipalities have some obligations towards some of those systems like policing and social services. And so when we address those gaps and we're able to create a net to catch those people who are being lost at devastatingly alarming rates, it creates a sense of safety and unity within the community. So that way, all people who have been affected by gender-based violence can feel safe coming forward and knowing that their needs will be met and they won't just be turned away because they might be too complex or um, too complex for the purview of what they're working in.
And just to add to that, I think it's really important when we're thinking about any forms of violence to really shine a light on the intersectionality piece. That it's not just, we're not just saying women and we're just kind of blanket statement making that. We're actually really highlighting the severities of what that actually looks like for Indigenous folks, for Black folks, for Brown folks, et cetera. So really it's about highlighting that intersectionality piece.
Thanks. There we go. Thank you. Through you again, Mr. Mayor. The next one, you mentioned commemoration helps educate the wider public. Could you expand on how increased public awareness and understanding, fostered partly through municipal actions like proclamations and support for events, can contribute to prevention efforts in challenging the attitudes that allow this violence to persist?
Well, we live in a colonial system, and in this system, the words that hold the most weight are our elected officials. And therefore, when our elected officials take it a priority and make action towards these initiatives, it shows the everyday citizen that it is within their power to do so also, and that it is something that's important to the area that they call home. Um, Sorry, I'm just trying to like refunnel the whole question. And I think that when you make proclamations and you make access to safe spaces, it actually creates this wave of people who are no longer afraid to share their story. And I think that's really what's holding back healing for everybody. Like, this is something I think, especially gender diverse and female people, like you can relate to personally on a level. You probably know somebody who's experienced something similar. And so, and how many of those people haven't come forward to share their experiences? So when we create a space that's safe for our most vulnerable to come forward, it facilitates healing for everybody in the long run.
Thank you. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Through your worship, to the delegation, thank you to both of you for being here and to both of you for all of the work and advocacy that you do in all of the aspects that you've covered today. Something that's kind of run through my mind for a while, and then Patricia, even last night when we were speaking, I did bring it up to you, but I just wanted to get your thoughts, maybe from even both of you, if you have a comment. Do you think that municipalities like ourselves here in Woodstock would benefit from having an advisory committee that is specified to DEI or social inclusion or diversity and inclusion committees that, you know, have a broad spectrum of not just necessarily Indigenous rights, but the rights of the many, many minorities and vulnerable populations that we see within our communities? We are growing. We see that every single meeting. I feel like we discuss that, and our diversities have changed drastically. But what are your thoughts on committees like that being formed and introduced to municipalities?
At the end of the day, DEI is diversity, equity, inclusion, and all three of those just support upholding fundamental human rights that everybody is supposed to be able to rely on. And I know that it's been polarized in the community, that term, but I think we really just need to get back to the fact that it is about making sure that everyone's basic human rights are respected and upheld. I think that any community would benefit from that, because if you don't have diversity of opinion, even with having this many people in this room, it's about creating diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's why there's not just one person at the front telling everything to everybody. And I think that when we create models of that at different levels, it helps to reinforce the fact that it is just about human rights and making sure that everyone's voice and life is respected and thought about when we're going through policies and processes. But do you have anything?
Yeah. And really to add to that, when we have these initiatives, like any DEI initiatives, we're telling people that they matter, right? We're just saying you are also just as important as your neighbor. And I think that's really the ultimate goal of DEI, is to allow people to feel seen in the spaces that they are coexisting in, and to know that their voice, their presence matters to us, to the community.
Anyone else? Councillor Lauder.
Thank you, through the mayor, to the delegation. Thank you for coming forward. I appreciate the wealth of information and awareness you bring through to this council each time that you come, and I'm sure that going out to other municipalities, this is all very helpful for them. So thank you again for attending this.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I'd also like to say thank you. Very first proclamation I ever read as a mayor was back on November 24th, 2022, and that was a proclamation. And I actually just found, I just pulled it up, and I'll read a little line out of it. Whereas Indigenous, Black, South Asian, and Southeast Asian women and girls continue to experience high rates of violence, including femicide, and are far too overrepresented, and that hasn't changed. So I'll continue to keep advocating. Please keep doing what you're doing, fighting the fight. And as politicians, I can certainly speak for myself anyways, I'll continue to advocate at all levels, every opportunity I can. So thank you, and miigwech. Looking for a motion on the floor? Counselor Lauder?
Thank you. I'll move that Woodstock City Council receive the presentation from Ingersoll and Area Indigenous Solidarity and Awareness Network as information.
Thank you. A seconder? Counselor Leatherborough? Discussion or questions? Counselor Wismer Van Meer?
Through your worship, I am maybe to the deputy clerk or the deputy CAO, city clerk, Ms. Humphreys. I'm not sure if this would be directed to you, and sorry, I should have maybe thought about this sooner, but what is the protocol to potentially create a new advisory committee if this is something that would have an appetite from council to potentially bring forward, like a DEI or social inclusion, some kind of advisory committee in that encompassing that area?
Your worship, through to Councillor Wismer Van Meer, my suggestion would be to bring a notice of motion at a future council meeting outlining some of the specifics of the committee. And then staff could prepare a report and potential draft bylaw for council's consideration. Some of the questions to think about would be the start date and whether that would be during this term of council, next term of council, things like that. So I think it would be prudent to bring some specific information in a motion, and then staff can respond back with some potential bylaw drafts for council to consider.
Thank you. If I can continue on with a question towards that on the same lines, with Safe and Well, as Councillor Martin has mentioned, Safe and Well Oxford taking a look at this and seeing what they've done. I'm going to assume the lower tiers will all get a report from that then, and it may be an opportunity to look at and do something forward if we wish more as a council. So I guess it's not really a question, more of a comment directed to Councillor Wismer Van Meer, that we certainly take a look at that, as I suspect we're going to see that soon. Yeah. Anyone else? All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. Thank you again for coming. And Ms. Kelly Elliott, 2025 Municipal Trade Show coming soon.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome.
So my name is Kelly Elliott. I am on staff with the Association of Ontario Road Supervisors. I'm joined here by one of your staff members, Alex Laros, and we're here to discuss the 2025 Municipal Public Works Trade Show that we're excited to bring to the city of Woodstock on June 4th and 5th to the Woodstock Fairgrounds. Just a quick overview for those of you that aren't familiar with AORS. We have 34 local associations, including Oxford County. Across the province, we represent over 2,000 members of municipal public works professionals across the province. We focus on high quality education to your employees. We run and administer the Certified Road Supervisor certification that's recognized through the province of Ontario, as well as we advocate on behalf of municipalities, including the city of Woodstock, and provide networking events for our members. We put on 2 premier events throughout the year, and one of them being the Municipal Public Works Trade Show. So every year this trade show moves across the province, but we're excited to co-host this event with the Oxford County Road Supervisors Association and host it in the city of Woodstock. So we are going to have over 200 exhibitors with over 300 exhibits. We're expecting over 2,000 people over the 2 days into the city. We have hotels sold out. Your local businesses and restaurants are going to see a boom in business over the 2 days with all of the visitors throughout. We have been doing, the first year we've ever done it, some media buys with Rogers Media. So you will be seeing the City of Woodstock and the trade show promoted on Rogers Media, including Sportsnet, City TV, Breakfast Television, as well as some radio advertisements throughout the month on a couple local country stations. And one thing that I do want to focus on is this is a municipal public works trade show, but the relevance to all different sectors, including the construction and the agricultural industries, is huge. A lot of the same suppliers that your municipal public works departments use are the same suppliers that our farmers across the region use, including you'll see Stratford Farm Equipment, Brant Tractor, Delta Power, they'll all be there. It is free to attend and it's open to the public. So everybody listening is welcome to attend the event and come check out everything that is offered there. One of the big advocacy pieces we do at AORS is what we call Why Public Works, and it is encouraging young people to consider careers in municipal public works. We know over the next 5 years, we're going to lose half of our workforce due to retirement boom, and so we really want young people to see the benefits and the rewards of working for their local municipality. And so we have been doing a lot of work encouraging that, and so we're bringing that to the trade show as well. This is the third year we've done it, but I have personally invited no, that's okay. I have personally invited and sent emails to principals and local technology teachers to invite them as a field trip to the trade show. I've had 2 groups of 40 kids each invited to come and attend. That's okay. So with that, they get a presentation on what careers are available, specifically what skilled trade careers are available in their municipality, as well as, and then they get lunch and get to tour the trade show. Luckily, due to a few generous sponsorships, the students get a free lunch, as well as we cover transportation costs for the students to avoid those barriers. We also have a host during this is the Ross Mackenzie Golf Tournament. And so that's really a big networking event for our municipal public works professionals and our suppliers to get together. This is the 30th year that we've hosted the Ross Mackenzie Memorial Golf Tournament. And the first one was actually hosted by Oxford County. So we're bringing it back to Oxford County for that. So it's going to be a special event, and anyone who wants to golf. Dan Locke is actually the coordinator and the chair of the golf committee. So reach out to him for registration. But we are very excited to be coming to the city of Woodstock, and it'll be a great event for your city. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none? Well, I gotta say, I'm quite excited by this. I think it'll be quite interesting to see so many pickup trucks and vehicles from all other municipalities all here in the city of Woodstock, I imagine, and a lot of people attending. So hopefully we've got a lot of presenters and showcasing their equipments and everything else. So, no questions? Thank you very much. Thank you for coming and bringing this to Oxford County. Looking for a motion on the floor. Councillor Leatherborough.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council received the presentation from Kelly Elliott regarding the 2025 AOR's Municipal Public Works Trade Show as information.
Thank you. Second by Councillor Wismer Van Meer. Any further discussion? Councillor Martin.
Just to comment through you, the why public works is a really important component of this. As a parent of a young adult, 20-year-old who is pursuing a future career in public works, it's these kind of events that pique their curiosity. And I think that a lot of people question, why would you want to work at the dump? Why would you want to work at the landfill? And yet it is an incredibly fulfilling career. My teenager's studying environmental studies. And when you think about the environmental impact of public works in our community, certainly an enormous future opportunity for careers in the municipal sector for people looking at that. So I think that's a huge opportunity, and I really appreciate that that's a part of this AOR's conference or event.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. That brings us to consideration of planning reports. We don't have any, no consideration of correspondence. We do have presentations from staff and approved agents. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Tim Beckett, Senior Technical Advisor, Emergency Management and Response Consulting. Of course, we're talking about our fire master plan. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Pleasure to be here with you today. Do have a presentation. Sure, it gets put up on screen. It's in front of me. Yes, I'm just wondering if it's on screen or is it? It's there. Here we are. Well, so thank you again, Mr. Mayor. My name is Tim Beckett. I'm a senior advisor, technical advisor with Bear Integrated Solutions. We're a company that deals with strategic planning for emergency services. Offices located in both Kitchener and in Calgary. And it was our pleasure to work with the Woodstock fire team, Chief Slagler, definitely a professional and a deep passion for the fire service. The entire team that we worked with in Woodstock, the passion and the dedication really came out throughout our project. So should be very proud of what your department brings to this community. As part of our look at the fire services, we looked at looking at the master plan and the community risk assessment. Over the past year and throughout the project, we utilized a methodology that really examines everything through the 3 lines of defense. The 3 lines of defense are public education, fire prevention and code enforcement, and emergency response. A number of objectives that we focused on included looking at enhanced firefighter safety, balancing the cost control and containment within an organization, also balancing that with increased efficiencies and effectiveness for the service, and identifying the right size service to meet the current and the future needs of your community. All this was geared towards improving your operational efficiencies and effectiveness in delivery of fire services. We examined as many possible aspects of your service and within the community that would also include future growth. Your operations that have impact on these future services, both now and in the future. So two projects that or 2 documents that we worked on were the community risk assessment and the fire master plan. In the fire master plan, we reviewed all your current fire services, including all service areas, identified areas for improvement, and the aspect of station location and apparatus deployment. So a quick overview of the community risk assessment, a rather large document, some 150 pages. In July 1st of 2024, Ontario passed regulation around community risk assessments becoming mandated for all communities to conduct. Woodstock Fire had already conducted a risk assessment. As part of our project, we were looked at validating that risk assessment and also looking to review for compliance and ensure that it was updated to current numbers and looking at enhancing it as much as we could. So that document was done in compliance with the regulation. Happy to say that you were in compliance and you are still in compliance of that regulation. It looks at 9 mandatory profiles that are listed on your screen there. I won't go through them all, but it's a very detailed document that opens up the eyes of all potential risks within your community. What we did was we started to look at those 9 profiles and then started to inform a risk rating that was either a low risk, a moderate risk, or a high risk, and allowed us then to utilize that information as we started looking at your master plan. The CRA identified 13 high or moderate risks within your community and 15 key findings. And those key findings are things that Woodstock Fire should continue to monitor and ensure that they're either being addressed in a manner that keeps them at a much lower risk, or identify if they become a moderate or higher risk. So just a quick overview of some of the risks that we did see. Increase in motor vehicle incidents. There's a high risk for that. You had over 1,400 emergency calls between 2019 and 2023 that pertained to motor vehicle related incidents. 89% of all your rescue calls were motor vehicle accidents or incidents, and 17% of all your calls that the fire department went to were involved motor vehicles. You got Highway 401 and Highway 403 that intersect, and 401 that runs right through your community. So a lot of potential for risk running through there. You have residential occupancies that remain a key risk for loss. You have a high percentage of 95% of your entire property stock is residential type dwellings. That alone creates that opportunity that most of your fire calls, most of your injuries, and most of your fire related losses are going to result in residential occupancy. So therefore you can start to put together programming and focus on how you prevent those, or your operations can focus on how you're going to deal with your bread and butter type fire incidents. You have an increase in industrial incidents. Industrial fires represented 11.2% of all structure fires. We also identified 19 properties within Woodstock that have a potential high fuel load, and therefore a higher risk for fire within those buildings. Your demographics, your senior and your pre-senior, if we use the term pre-senior for us that haven't reached 65 yet. But we know that those that are between the ages of 55 and 64 are going to be, we're living longer, we're staying in our homes longer as seniors, and that group is going to just compound your senior demographics. Seniors are very susceptible to fires. We see a lot of across the province, a lot of fire deaths related to seniors. And with that, again, programming, prevention, code enforcement pieces are all areas that the fire department can continue to explore. And then just a couple that relate to some of your past history. Smoker, open flame and smokers articles were a high source of ignition source. And then you had almost 40% of your incidents where no working smoke alarms were present or working. And that's a large number of smoke alarms. That's the early detection, and everybody that's listening today, make sure that your smoke alarms are working. So moving on to the fire service master plan and the process. This is just a quick little indication of how we work through it. It's outlined in the report itself. The diagram is a little small, I apologize. But essentially, we work through a systematic process. It's a roadmap for us. It's something that really takes a look at your community risk assessment, looking at risk mitigation strategies, and a number of observations and recommendations that we developed for the betterment of the organization. It's highly recommended that this report get reviewed and evaluated on an annual basis, so to make sure that nothing has changed. And then every 5 to 10 years, you look at updating your fire master plan. Our process, we did a number of different things at the start. We did tour your community and your fire stations. We did targeted interviews with a number of senior staff and some key operational staff within the fire department. We did an online firefighter survey to provide a balance of input from the firefighters on the floor. And we did a municipal comparator to look at how Woodstock Fire Department compares with others and examining reasons for differences. We often get asked about, what triggers growth within a fire department. So I thought I'd put together a little bit of a slide on that. And, in the past, a number of municipalities would look at the number of firefighters per 1,000 population. And that's an old and antiquated process for determining the number of firefighters you should have. Excuse me. In fact, each community is different, and each community should be looked at based on their own needs and circumstances. And some of the areas that we continue to examine as population increases, the types of constructions and occupancies that you'll have in your community, concurrent call load. How many calls are happening at the same time within your within your municipality? That puts an additional stress on because you need resources to handle those all at the same time. And then the changes to service level expectations, both of the public, but also as those that are established by council. So council, if you decide that the fire department wants to do something, you want them to do something different or add to it, we've got to make sure that that growth is taken into account as part of their operations. So Woodstock's a real unique city. You have a very much an urban setting within with a lot of rural surroundings. You had rapid growth in the north section of the city. You got some unique hazards and risks with the highways coming through. You've got a lot of industrial in the south. Your major transportation corridors. You're when I say single city, you're that single city within the within the Oxford County. You're the only city. You're the only full-time fire department. So drawing on additional resources from surrounding sometimes is a little bit challenging that in order to meet your needs. You have mutual aid plans in place and all that, and those work. But just the fact that the only full-time fire department in the county just makes you unique in terms of what we start to look at. So we identified 5 strategic objectives. On the administration objective, it's really about looking at the efficiencies and ensuring appropriate support services are in place. Under the public fire safety and education side, looking at community-wide programming, but targeting certain level of concerns as it relates to the risk, and essentially raising as much awareness as possible around fire safety and fire prevention. Under your code enforcement and inspection, really about a proactive approach. Don't wait for the problems to come to you. Get out and tackle those problems. Address all your different occupancies and the risks within those occupancies. And at the end of the day, what you're really trying to achieve is not so much the enforcement and fining side of things, but you're just looking at compliance and making sure that the buildings within within your municipality are in compliance with the fire code. Emergency response was strategic objective number 4. And the key goal is to prevent the fires, as we talked about in the first 2, objective number 2 and 3. But when they do, incidents do occur, and they will occur, it's about a quick and coordinated approach, ensuring that you have the proper resources to handle the risks that your firefighters are facing, and the ability to address and mitigate those risks when they happen. Training and professional development was the 5th strategic objective, and really that is making sure that you have programming that meets the legislative requirements, the health and safety requirements, and allowing firefighters to have the skills and ability to address the programming that the fire department provides. So those were the key lenses that we looked at as we went through the various areas. 25 observations, 30 key recommendations were developed. We provided some timeframes assigned to each of these. Those timeframes aren't hard and fast. In fact, there are suggestions, but at the end of the day, the municipality has control over how quick and how fast or how slow you want to implement these recommendations. You know, we understand that times will change, and you know, you may look at recommendations moving forward, but budget won't allow it, or you need to push it off, and that is your call. I mean, these are our suggestions that we saw and tried to balance those out as much as possible. So what I'm going to do now is we've really identified strategic level recommendations, and we've identified very operational administrative recommendations. I'm not going to go through, Mr. Mayor, through all 30 recommendations. What I do want to do is highlight 11 of the key strategical recommendations and some of the pieces that I think will really look at what council wants to maybe to address. So recommendation number 1, your bylaw was approved in 2019 and is up to date with the fire chief's responsibilities. What we found, though, it didn't include specific emergency response time performances, your performance service levels. Further response performance, such as the number of firefighters responding or time increment to achieve a safe, effective response force, completing the critical tasks and all that, should be included in that established and regulating bylaw. So what we're suggesting is that you update the existing establishing and regulating bylaw that reflects these additional pieces within it. Something that's not a difficult process, but something that definitely would come in front of council for consideration. Along with that, we suggest that the fire department, through the fire chief, establish a standard of cover policy, identifying the performance expectations, or what we call as the benchmarks that you're trying to achieve. So setting a level of service that the fire department then can work on establishing their programming around. It's really about you know, what types of calls you're going to respond to, with how many firefighters in a certain amount of time, and then you know, what types of activities can you do within the realm of the services that you're providing. And that standard to cover policy it could be attached as an appendix to your establishment and regulating bylaw, or it could be a standalone policy that's just internal to the fire department, but something that really helps guide the fire department through the understanding of what council's expectations are. And then we've kind of touched a little bit on this through the last two, but set a council approved benchmark level for response performance. So at the end of the day, council, you have the responsibility under the Fire Protection and Prevention Act to set the level of service for the community. Now, you know, most of it is through the guidance from your experts, the fire chief, but at the end of the day, council, it's your responsibility, your opportunity to set that level of service, and that's something that you can do within that establishing and regulating bylaw. Recommendation number 2. One of the things that we looked at was the aspect of through the administration side was the proper resources. With the addition of some of the recommendations that are found within the aspects of the master fire plan, the current workload of 2 senior officers, we feel that it's beneficial if you looked at creating a 3rd management position, either a 2nd deputy chief, then divide up the task between the 2 deputy chiefs, or add an assistant deputy fire chief that is part of the senior management team, and that share the current workload, but also the future workload that you're going to see if this master plan is adopted. It takes some, right now we found that a lot of the work is very much operational. It takes away from the opportunity to focus strategically and bring forth the appropriate programming and strategic direction that's required. Recommendation number 3. One of the things we looked at was the whole aspect around establishment of proper resources on the scene to deal with your risks that were identified. And one of the pieces that we found was it takes a bit of time to get a full effective response force on scene with your callback or your mutual aid requirements within the city. One of the things that we are recommending is that you look at operating a minimum staffing of 12 firefighters, and that will represent 3 crews, so 3 trucks of 4 firefighters, and then have them dispersed throughout the city. And you'll see a further recommendation that you've probably already seen within the report around a through station. So what this would require the fire department to do is hire 8 additional firefighters, and that's 2 per shift. And this can be done as a one-time hire, or it can be split out and hired over a 2-3 year period, wherever council and the budgetary pieces fall. Not something that we're suggesting needs to happen today, but something that should be put into a roadmap for the near future. Recommendation 10A was about adding 2 additional fire inspectors phased in over 24 months. One of the pieces that we did, we examined in depth the fire prevention responsibilities, the requirements, and did a staffing study based on programming, current programming, and potential future programming that we're recommending. To meet the current programming, we've identified the fact that there needs to 2 additional fire inspectors / public educators would be required just to continue to meet the current programming that has been that was shown to us. If we want to go to if you would want to go to a further enhanced targeted public education program and a very much a proactive inspection program, we then would look at, you would require 2 additional inspectors, public educators, phased in over a 48-month period. And the reason why we're suggesting a 48-month period is because you start to address your higher risk pieces early, and then because you won't be able to do it all at once. So start to tackle your biggest risk first, and then down to your lowest risk at a proactive aspect. And over a 4-year period, you could do that and phase in those inspectors over that time. So that review of the staffing analysis is included in the appendix of the master fire plan. Recommendation number 14 is and 15 is really about expanding your specialized areas. Right now, your hazardous material responses are at an awareness level, meaning that you show up, they know that they have a hazardous material incident, and then they've got to find additional resources that come in from outside to assist. What we're suggesting is that you look at providing an operational level hazardous material response, meaning that you're able to deal with a lot of routine and smaller hazardous material incidents. Any bigger incidents like that, you would continue to utilize other organizations as well as the provincial model of for hazardous material response. Recommendation number 15 looks at the whole aspect of specialized rescue operations program. And these are based on your potential risks within the community. A lot of operational stuff within your industrial in your community. The machine rescue would allow for the firefighters to be trained in machine rescue entrapment, being able to address any incidences that happen there. That currently is not not a part of the programming. We suggest that could be done in the first 12 months. Within the next 12 to 24 months, look at a confined space rescue program. You have a number of areas within the community that confined space rescue could occur. And then 24 to 36 months, looking at a trench rescue program. We're seeing an increase with the building construction and construction that's just occurring right around the province, increased trench incidences with limited resources that are available. The fire department's going to respond to them, expected to do something, but they're so they're so highly regulated in terms of what needs to happen and the training that's required in those, that they will be very limited to what they could do once they're on scene. But the expectation probably is do something. This way that they would be trained to an operations level, the kind of the second level, it's awareness, operations, and then technical. We're not suggesting the technical area, just the operations level. So what we've done here is we've identified some of the station mapping. So we started looking at your response models. This is your current response model at a 300-second or a 5-minute travel time from each station. So you have some you have decent coverage, kind of in the middle area where you have the overlap of the yellow and kind of the purple line there. But what you can see is up in the north section of here, you have very limited response in that 5 minutes, and also down in the bottom section here. So with your two stations, you get okay coverage at a 5-minute travel time. What we are looking at, we start to look at your density map, and this really shows where it's darker is where the majority of your calls are happening. So you can see you got a majority of calls within your downtown area. You're starting to get some up in here, but we start to see a little bit of coloring happening up in the north section. And as that continues to grow, I think your incidents are only going to increase up there as the population continues to grow. So you have fairly good coverage in the downtown core. But what we did, we were asked to review a 3-station model. We evaluated the current locations of the station, and then what it would look like adding a additional station, and then evaluate optimizing all the stations for a longer term future, and what would that look like. So the recommendation that we developed was, again, looking at the city of Woodstock as it is today, that a new fire station situated in the area of Oxford Road 4 and Devonshire Avenue to service new growth areas up in the north, and also to provide improvement to the effective response force, meaning the number of firefighters that you can get on scene quickly to assist with Station 1 and 2. So what does that start to look like from a mapping perspective? I know there's lots of colors there, and I apologize. It's pretty easy to look at when you're looking at it on the paper map. But you now, with a new station designed up here in Devonshire, you get the coverage up in that north area that we talked about that wasn't there originally. The fact that you don't see any coverage in this little gray area is because there's not a road network design there. If there was a road network there, that would be covered in blue as well. You still have a bit of a gap down below here, but you also, where your response coverage was heavy in the downtown area, you have good overlap of all 3 stations coming together, providing those 12 firefighters in a timely manner to start to mitigate the incident. Recommendation 25 is for the fire department and the community to continue to monitor potential growth and consideration for the appropriate station relocations, so the existing stations. And we actually mapped that out. What that could look like, if there's opportunity along the way, if the municipality was ever to expand in any form, there's opportunities to look at continue with a 3-station model and still have adequate coverage. Stations are a heavy burden on a capital side of things, but maintaining the operational side, maintaining 3 is better than trying to maintain 4 fire stations. So we looked at it from a 3-station approach, a relocation of the station. I know you have city property up there, looking at moving Station 1 further to the west, and of course the new Station 3 up in Devonshire. And that triangle approach there provides you decent coverage at a 5-minute travel time to anywhere within the city. All the other recommendations are very operational and administrative. Happy to discuss any of those. I don't want to hold up your time. I know you're all very busy. I'm happy to discuss any of them if there's anyone's council wants to pull out of those. But the 11 that we identified, I think, were the highest priority. I do want to thank the chief and the deputy for their continued work with us throughout this. Very timely in getting information to us. As I said earlier, your fire service is very dedicated, very much proud of what they do. The pride was very much present when we were doing our interviews with staff. And, you know, essentially the framework that I can say is that they want to provide the best service possible to the citizens, and they believe that the citizens are getting a good value for the services that they have now, and they know that there's room for improvements that can be made. So, Mr. Mayor, that concludes a rather lengthy presentation. My apologies to council, but happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Beckett? Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Through your worship to Mr. Beckett, thank you very much for this. There's a lot of reading. I'm not going to pretend like I got through all of that before today, but I am still working on it. But the thing that kind of caught my attention the most, and it's in your presentation as well, is the locations of the stations. The first proposal of the new station going at Devonshire and County Road 4. Is there a reason why, I mean, you did touch on part of it, but moving the new one to the north side of the dam, the north side of Piddock, and not relocating the other two, is there a reason why that wasn't considered, just because there is so much development that is going to be coming out there?
So it was really about balancing, Mr. Mayor, through you to the councilor, it was really about balancing your deployment models. And if you looked at where your majority of your incidents are in that downtown core area where you want to get people in there. If you move it up into the north of the Piddock Dam, you're then starting to look at you're at your northern border. So now everything you're doing is coming south versus going north or south, and it'll be a much longer response to get into your south end. It was a balance. You could put a station up there. We wouldn't recommend it because I think it defeats the purpose of trying to put a balanced approach to your response modeling. So that triangle approach really provided the most optimum level.
Anyone else? Councillor Schanberg.
Yeah, question through the delegation. When you talk about additional inspectors, are you talking about because of additional residential units and other different new constraints on residential property to be able to make sure that safety is paramount as far as residential homes go?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor. When we looked at the additional fire prevention officers, it was kind of twofold. It's fire prevention and public education. So the public education really informing, those residents. But you've got some development that's coming in with different types of residential occupancies, higher buildings, more dense buildings. Those things take time to make sure that they're in compliance with the fire code and maintain compliance with the fire code. But it's also about looking at your programming from a proactive approach where you're required to do it on a reactive and request basis. But if you really want to tackle mitigating the risk, it's really about taking a proactive approach and starting to put the resources together to stop, prevent fires from happening in the first place, eases up the resources required on the suppression side. But also, if what you want to make sure that if a fire does break out, that building is in compliance, so people at least have an opportunity to escape and get out of that fire or incident that's occurring there. And it's that compliance piece that I think is important. And the only way you're going to really achieve true compliance on an ongoing basis is to put a proactive approach to fire prevention with the appropriate resources. And that's what we calculated through that staffing study. That's where those numbers came from. So it is about some residential and some of the growth within the residential, but it's more than just that as well.
Continue.
Yeah, unrelated to my original question, my second one is, you talked about staffing changes or staffing possible improvements, but you just also generally said the Woodstock Fire Department is generally well operated as far as the current suppression team. But there was something I noticed in the report, or terminology that I noticed in the report, that maybe needs more backup information. That was something called a quiet room, and the necessity possibly for Woodstock to include something like that in the fire department. What's that pertaining to?
Wyatt, sorry, I'm not sure what part in the.
I'll find it.
Could we have the chief get back to you on that?
Sure thing. Yep.
And what we'll do is we'll figure out what that is pertaining to. It doesn't come to.
I just thought maybe we were missing some sort of a service necessary for the staffing of the fire department that the city of Woodstock was missing, with you being a consultant telling us what we sort of need to improve on over the next 24 to.
Let me suggest it wasn't
it
wasn't a top priority. So let me go back and have a look at it.
I did read the entire report, and I don't remember anything about a quiet room myself either. Is it page 63? I'm just being told.
Observation.
There you go. Counselor Tate.
Just through the chair for the presentation, just for the public's benefit. So, city our size, 60K, would 3 stations be normal? Like I think we're behind, but that would be the minimum.
Yeah, so when we looked, Mr. Mayor, through you to the councilor, when we looked at the whole aspect of optimizing your operations, the 3-station model, we did look at a 4-station model, but that wasn't part of our mandate within the review. It was a 3-station model, and we optimized operations within a 3-station model using a 5-minute response time. If you want to achieve a lower response time, a travel time of 4 minutes, you can't do that with a 3-station model. You'd have to do it with a 4-station model. We're recommending, we're suggesting that you don't need that. A 3-station model is okay. What is more important is not the number of stations you have, provided you have coverage of your community. It's really about the resources that are within that station that's important to understand. And that's where the number of firefighters that you can have on scene to deal with the risks that you're identified, you want to get them there in a timely manner. And when we looked at it, that 3-station model set up with 3 trucks, 12 firefighters, you can have those 12 firefighters on scene pretty much anywhere in the city within a travel time of 8 minutes. So 3 model is optimal for a city this size. If you expand out your borders, that's something you may have to take a deeper look at.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? I'd just like to say thank you. It was a very good and wholesome report, that's for sure. I was a little curious, along with Councillor Wismer Van Meer, I was expecting more of a recommendation towards the one moving on Van Sittert Ave, maybe going to the north side. So I'm glad you explained that. And I suppose I can see why that would make a little more sense of a triangle that way.
Right.
So I appreciate that.
Mr. Mayor, to address the quiet room aspects, on observation number 5, it was to deal with the Emergency Operations Center. So the Emergency Operations Center currently is situated at fire headquarters, your primary. That's an active fire station, and it's located in the dormitory of the fire station. So when you have an activated emergency, essentially the firefighters have to move out of that area, but there's nowhere else in the station for them to work and do what they do: kitchen, dormitory, training, all that aspect. So that one of our other observations there, when we talk about quiet rooms, so getting to the quiet rooms, in an emergency operations center, it's nice to have a quiet room. So like when you've been sitting there for, 10, 15 hours during an emergency, sometimes you just need that little break away from there and go to a quiet area. Well, there's not that area already within the fire headquarters. So that's where we're saying there isn't a quiet room. So it's not necessarily for the firefighters. It's all around your emergency operations piece, and quite essentially could be any one of the senior staff members that are sitting here that could be, staffing that operations center and needing a place to go. So our recommendation is to start to look at other options for, your primary emergency operations center that has those areas that could be dealt with. And I apologize for not understanding where that came from, but now
Anyone else? Seeing none, thank you very much. Looking for a motion on the floor. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council receive the presentation regarding the fire master plan and community risk assessment as information.
Thank you. Second by Councillor Schadenberg. Any further discussion, questions? Councillor Tate.
Yeah, just a comment, and I'm glad this came forward. It's too bad it didn't come before some other stuff that we passed here, but I think it needs to be stressed again how important the basic services are. So we're spending the money that maybe we shouldn't on other things. And as I've always said, emergency services is one of those ones that is extremely important, and the residents expect the basics service for their tax dollars. So the roads, water, emergency services is really important. So we have grown so much and we still have the same number of officers and stations. This has been ongoing for a long, long time, and then we grew quite quickly. And my concern is also what was mentioned, we're building higher and closer together. So when you have one building that catches on fire, you're gonna have a risk of the houses next to it too, because they're built so close together. So I'm glad this is forward. I think council needs to take a very serious look at this and prioritize over some of the wants and put this in a need, because this is life and death, not to be dramatic, but that's what you're talking about with emergency services. So I think it's extremely important, and I'm glad this was brought forward.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. No mayor's reports today, no councillor reports, but we do have department reports. 14A Administrative Services, 14A1 2025 tax rates. Councillor Schadenberg.
I'll make a motion that Woodstock City Council approve the 2025 tax rates and that the necessary bylaw be read.
Thank you. Second by Councillor Lauder. Discussion? Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, a question through to Diane Campbell, our Administrative Services Department. When you start looking at the extra graphs and information and mill rates that come along with the tax rates and tax numbers, can you explain to us why the multi-residential versus the new multi-residential numbers are different as far as the mill rate multiplier goes?
Your worship, through to the councillor's question. Part of the calculation of the tax rate starts with weighting of the assessments based on tax ratios, and they are set as part of the annual tax policy decisions that are made at the county level. In the case of the new multi-residential ratio, that it's set at 1.0 in accordance with an Ontario regulation. And so it's matching the residential rate, and that is different from the multi-residential, which is the older assessment class, which is at 2.0.
And I guess a follow-up question to that, they always, for example, will say, you're in the business of owning a multi-residential property once you own an eightplex, for example. Well, how does that differ as far as the taxation rate goes? Does he become multi-residential at a fourplex apartment building or six, or where's the magic number there?
Your worship, through the councilor's question, the definition of multi-residential is more than 6 self-contained units. So as long as it's got a kitchen, a bathroom, it just needs to be more than 6.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. Just for the public's information, the rate increase for 2025 is 5.83%. And so for anyone who would like to calculate their taxes on their residential rate, it is 0.018208888. And I have done mine and I know what my taxes are going up. So thank you.
Maybe I'll just add on to that because we do have an average here I can share. Based on an average accessed home right now, it would be $269.74 here in the city of Woodstock. That's including the education and county tax rates as well. Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next up, 14A2, Woodstock Board of Management Downtown Area Special Area Charges. Councillor Leatherborough.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council approve the BIA tax rates and that the necessary bylaw be read.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wismer Van Meer. Discussion or questions? Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. Just a very quick question. Vacant excess land, that means the property is vacant, not an existing building that is vacant? I just wanted to make sure that I had a question earlier in the week from a resident.
Your worship, through the councilor's question, yes, that refers to vacant land or excess land, but not a vacant building.
Right, thank you. The question that I received was about some of the vacant buildings in the downtown, and that's not what this is addressing.
That is correct. Anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Next from engineering. $14B.1 Dundas Street Redevelopment Phase 2. Looking for a motion, Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council award the tender for the Dundas Street redevelopment Phase 2 to Armstrong Paving and Materials Group Ltd. in the amount of $1,968,524.50, inclusive of HST.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Martin, discussion or questions? Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Whoops. I just wanted to point out for those who might not have seen the report, this actually came in $1 million, over $1 million under what was budgeted in capital budget. That line had 2.9 in the 25 to 29 capital budget. And right now we're under that by quite a bit here for this. So I did reach out to Mr. DeHaan just to kind of get an understanding, because when you see such a huge drastic difference like that, you kind of opened your eyes a bit, but he reassured that there's a lot of questions and follow-ups, and it's maybe a little alarming to see, but nothing that's going to be skipped out or missed or less productive work.
Yes, I had the same questions as well, but great news, save $1 million. Anyone else? Councillor Martin.
Sorry, just a very quick question to engineering through you, Mr. Mayor. A start time approximate that if this is awarded, what would we be looking at later this summer?
Your worship, through the councilor, yeah, the contract has them starting basically as soon as possible after sidewalks days, which is mid-July.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Nothing from cultural services. Nothing from Parks and Rec, but we do have economic development this afternoon. So that brings us to 14E.1, purchase of a small lot between 563 and 565 Dundas Street. Looking for a motion? Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. I'll move that Woodstock City Council authorize the mayor and clerk and/or treasurer to sign any necessary documents associated with the purchase of the subject property, and that the necessary bylaw be read, and further that the purchase of the subject property be funded from the reserve for capital projects.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder on that? Councillor Wismer Van Meer. Discussion or questions? Seeing none, I found this quite interesting of this little 13-foot wide section from 1903, I believe it was. Councillor Schattenberg.
Yeah, I guess if this property's existence from 1903, I'm not sure who asked the question to Mayor, but would the city not be able to purchase this property for $2 based on property taxes owed on this lot? What's sort of the bylaw or reasoning behind that?
Your worship, through to the councillor's question. In order to acquire a property through the tax arrears process, we have to do a registration. Tax arrears certificates put on title, and it takes up to a year, or it does take a year. And then once we don't get the money that we're owed, we're able to put it up for public tenders. The city is able to do a bid on that, and that's what we've done in order to acquire this. So it does eliminate the tax arrears, and there's a slight surplus that needs to be paid to the province, but we can't just buy it for $2. Thanks.
Thanks for the explanation. Thanks.
Were you interested in buying it, or is that? Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. Nothing from the clerk's department, but we do have the CAO office funding for website migration, 14G.1. Looking for a motion. Councillor Tate.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council approve $71,500 from the tax stabilization reserve fund to commence work on the migration of the city's website to a new platform in 2025, and further that City Council authorize pre-approval of $49,500 in the 2026 revenue fund budget for the remainder of the website migration work.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lauder. Discussion, Councillor Tate.
If the CAO can comment on this, why this is really necessary and we missed it.
That be okay to have Colleen come forward? Sorry, Colleen. It's Colleen's welcome.
Thank you for your worship to the councillor's question. So the current platform that we use for content and for website hosting is being end of lifed. So it will no longer be supported at the end of this year, and it will be terminated as of June 30th of 2026. Given the amount of work to migrate from one platform to another platform, given the size of our website, it will take at least 6 months, more likely 8 months to complete the work. So if we don't want to be at risk of not having a website next year, it's important that we get started on this year.
Yes, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you. In that case, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. From Human Resources, 14H.1, Selection Committee for Director of Public Works, Councillor Martin.
Thank you. That Woodstock City Council directs the CAO to manage the recruitment process for the Director of Public Works with the best use of staff resources.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Tate, discussion or questions? Seeing none? Call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. Of course, this is in speaking with Director of Public Works, Dan Locke has put his official retirement in. So thank you very much for your commitments. It's going to be hard to fill, but thank you for all the work you've done. Nothing from Fire Services, nothing from Public Works or IT. None from Special Committee or Advisory Task Force, no notice of motion, but we do have new business. Councillor Tate.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Lauder, whereas at the April 3rd, 2025 meeting, Woodstock City Council allocated $47,100 to 13 organizations for the spring intake of the 2025 Community Grants Program. And whereas the purpose of the Community Grants Program is to provide financial assistance to local nonprofit, charitable, or volunteer organizations to deliver programs, services, or special projects that benefit the community and enhance the overall well-being of the city residents. And whereas the remaining balance for 2025 in the Community Grants Fund is $109,430, therefore it be resolved that Woodstock City Council allocates an additional $10,000 to Big Brothers Big Sisters of Oxford County and $10,000 to Woodstock Kitten Nursery and Rescue to be funded from account 0204-83747-000 Community Grant Program.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, you did say a seconder? Councillor Lauder? Okay, thank you. Discussion? Councillor Tate?
So the reason I brought this forward, and have to give credit to the Grants Committee, they do an incredible job and they have so many to go through. But the Big Brothers Big Sisters did send us an email after, or just before, with the grant money to them, and it was only for half of what they needed. So they can't actually do the program unless they had the full 20,000, which I appreciate. They did send the information. It is all for in Woodstock. It's not for Oxford County or Woodstock, and it was all for Woodstock. The other one, the Woodstock Kitten Nursery, and the Grants Committee might not have the background on this, and probably that's why it was passed over. So council, or the city, and used to come to council, we used to pay the entire amount. Hillside Kennels used to look after all of this, and a lot of the cats were put down. We funded the entire program. Hillside doesn't do it anymore, and this organization came forward, I can't remember how many years ago it was. So instead of actually putting them all down, they work at the rescue ones that come in, having them neutered. So we don't have this huge influx of stray cats all over Woodstock and around. And I know down at the Border Works, there's always been an issue with a lot of stray cats, which will carry disease and everything else. So it is a very good service they offer. And we used to fund the entire amount through Woodstock, and it was for all of Oxford County. So the $10,000 is quite low to what it used to be. And the numbers that used to come in were horrific. So that was my reasoning.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Leatherborough.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just to the mover, I was just curious if you had consulted with any members of the committee, if you had emailed them or had any dialogue about this motion.
Through the chair, no, because it was to do with these organizations and I got my answers from them. They didn't have the background on the Woodstock Kitten Rescue, so.
Continue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for that. I won't be supporting the motion. I think that this council appoints community members to the various committees, and volunteerism is declining, unfortunately. So I do think that to carve out a certain amount of time to volunteer Certainly in the 3 and a bit years that I've sat around here, we've all mentioned how much time goes into this specific process of allotting money to different organizations. So I think it's really important to respect the committee's decisions, and certainly in future intake applications in that process, there can be feedback around these 2 specific groups. But I won't be supporting the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Tate.
Just a comment about that. So this money is actually city councils, and I'm aware that there's a committee on it. And I think we've mentioned a number of times, we get a lot of number of volunteers for our committee. So I'm not concerned about that, and I appreciate the work. But we don't see any of the grant applications that come in. The only people that see it is the grant committee. So I think it's really important because I know it's grant money, but it's taxpayer money. So when something comes forward and an awareness, I think it's a responsibility for all of council, because this is what we do for the community. I understand if you don't want to support it, but I think these 2 are really important for the community.
Thank you. Can I see your hand up? Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. So I just wanted to share a few thoughts that are my own, but I am the council representative that sits on this committee. And this committee's had a lot of discussion since this notice of motion came forward. And we immediately went back to the policy as a committee to take a look at that and the specific details. So right in the policy, it says that the policy has been established to ensure that all applications are evaluated using an established set of criteria, and that each application is considered on its own merit. And of course, the committee takes that seriously. And later on, there is an appeal process outlined in the policy. And it states that council finalizes all funding decisions for the community grants program, and there is no appeal process after council has made its decision. And of course, council did make its decision on April 3rd at that meeting. And I understand, Councillor Tate, you weren't available. You weren't here at that meeting. And I'm going to make the assumption that you're bringing this forward because you weren't available that day. But the committee has some pretty strong feelings about the integrity of the process should this motion be passed. And it's not about the 2 organizations or the quality of their applications or their impact in the community that concerns the committee and myself at this point. It is the integrity of the process, because we as council, I believe all of us, received an email from the executive director of Big Brothers Big Sisters the day of our consideration on April 3rd. And then a representative or a volunteer from the Kitten Rescue, who, as the committee, we lovingly just refer to as the kittens. We also received a communication from them. And so the committee has concerns that if an applicant doesn't like the recommendation and they voice concern, that they can simply be approved and circumvent the process by complaining or issuing a complaint. Some comments from the committee. Bringing forward requests for additional funding outside of the established process risks setting a precedent that could undermine the integrity of our work. However, if council feels strongly that our decisions, the committee's decisions are not being made in the best interest of the community, we would encourage them to consider establishing a formal appeal process, or for council to attend a committee meeting to gain a clearer understanding of how the funding decisions are made. So the committee very intentionally left $109,000 in the pot. And that was very intentional, knowing that in this time of economic uncertainty, we may see in the second intake a much greater ask for human needs in our community. And so that was one of the particular reasons for not granting full funding to many of the applications, not just these 2. In the email that the executive director from Big Brother sent to us, the email indicated that unlike many organizations, the executive director said, unlike many organizations, Big Brother Big Sister of Oxford County does not receive any ongoing government funding or require any sort of membership fee or fee for service. And yet, since 2008, Big Brothers Big Sisters has every single year received community grant money for a total of $175,500. So we have continually funded. The committee did recommend $5,000 out of, I believe, a $15,700 ask is my recollection. Actually, I have the application here, $15,700. And the committee evaluated all of those asks, this one included, and made its recommendations. So I wanted to share that so that you all had a sense of where the committee is coming from and their overall concern for the integrity of the process.
Thank you. Councillor Tate?
Through the chair, can I just have the clerk comment, because I did check to make sure at any time we can make a motion from this money, because it's council's money. And it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I thought probably going forward in another term when there's new people, that it should be all of council, because we have unelected people deciding where we're spending all this money, and it's a lot of money. So with the times changing and the amount of money, I understand where you're coming from, but it is council's money. It does not belong to the committee. So if the clerk can just comment on what was said.
Your worship, through to Councillor Tate. I can confirm the policy does in fact say there is no appeal mechanism outside of council's decision. In this particular case, it's brought forward outside of that grants piece, and that was the information you had indicated to us when we prepared the notice of motion for you. Yes.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'd like to comment. I would, this was a tougher one than kind of usual. I have been involved. I've sat in many of the meetings with the community grants, and I thank them. It is a very, very tough job. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend this meeting when this was discussed. I do have copies of it in the binder on my desk that I have gone through. I am giving Councillor Tate the credit for bringing it forward. A, for not being here when the opportunity did arise at first, being unable to attend that meeting. But also, I do agree that council does have final say. Again, this is in no disrespect whatsoever to the Community Grants Committee for what they do. Please let me be clear. I can't be more clear. This is in no disrespect whatsoever. Had Councillor Tate been here, this was probably going to be debated then and would have been a little bit differently. So I will be voting in favor of this after much consideration of the need. Youth is a priority of mine. I've never kept that a secret. And in speaking with a few of the people at the kitten nursery, it has become very clear that there is a very desperate need. So again, let me be clear. I'm supporting this because of the need. And I thank the Community Grants Committee for all the work they do and look forward to continually working with them, and hopefully we'll be able to attend the fall intake to hear the discussions at a little bit more length myself. And with that, Councillor Lauder.
I didn't say anything before, but I have been on that committee also, and yes, it's very difficult. All the applications come in and to say no. And when I was on it, there was an appeal process, because I remember some people coming forward with an appeal. So that was probably, I might have been on that committee in my first term, so it's a while ago. So I just to let you know that there was an appeal process at that time. So that's my comments. Thank you.
I don't recall that ever being. I been on the committee enough to know there's been asked the second intake for sure, but that could be. I certainly. You've been on much longer than I have.
I've been around a while.
Yeah, just a couple of years.
No, but I do remember someone coming forward. I can't remember which one it was. They were in, but there was someone, a group came forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else before I call the vote? Seeing none? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And that brings us to draft bylaws. Councillor Tate.
Through the chair, I'm going to defer to Councillor Lauder if she wants to read the first one.
Thank you. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Schadenberg, that ninth bylaw, that the following bylaws be given a first and second reading. 9752-25, a bylaw to govern and regulate the finances for the city of Woodstock for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2025, to provide for the adoption of tax rates and to further provide for penalty and interest in the default of payment thereof for 2025.
Okay, thank you. And for those watching at home, we are just separating those out as per request of a council member. Any discussion or questions on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Do we have to do the third right now? Yes. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Martin, that the following bylaws be given a third and final reading. 9752-25.
Thank you. Any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Now I'll go to Councillor Tate.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Lauder, 9753-25, a bylaw to approve the estimates for the Board of Management for the Business Improvement Area for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2025, and 9754-25, a bylaw to authorize the purchase of lands acquired through a tax sale within the city of Woodstock.
Thank you, and that's for the first and second reading. Any questions on those? Seeing none, all those in favor? None opposed. Councillor Tate.
Self seconded by Councillor Lauder that the following bylaws be given a third and final reading, 9753-25 and 9754-25.
Thank you. Last chance. Seeing none, all those in favor? None opposed. Those are carried. And that brings us to questions and addresses. And we're going to start with Councillor Schanberg this afternoon.
Yeah, we had a delegation here earlier talking about the fire master plan. So this is just a reminder to everybody that this is Emergency Preparedness Week, May 1st to 7th. And there's a website, oxford72hours.ca, that's worth looking through. It basically gives you the information of what you need for 72 hours, not necessarily survival, that's kind of a bad word, but what you need for 72 hours in case of an emergency if it was to happen in Oxford County. And speaking about first responders, on Saturday, May 3rd at 7 p.m. at the Reeves Community Complex, there's Hockey Helps the Hungry. The paramedics are taking on the fire department. And I was told by Deputy Chief Trevor Shea that the paramedics needed assistance. So they've gone to the police department for help. I don't know if they've gone to the mayor for help on their roster, but the fire department is taking on the paramedics. The proceeds, very important, are going to operation sharing, and the admission is $10. The last thing I want to mention is Zone 2 of May 5th to 9th for large item pickup. And that's for people who normally have their garbage and recycling picked up on a Tuesday. And since Dan Locke is here, we'll ask him, when they say up to 5 items, and not to over confuse things, we really don't want people throwing out all their, for example, their old furnace filters and throwing them on their front lawn.
Through you, your worship, to the council's question. Yes, it is large article items that you're putting out. So things that you would not normally put in your garbage pickup. So it's just large article items that, that we get a chance to go around and pick up once a year.
And one more question, if I could, and that's to Harold DeHaan from Engineering Department, just giving us an update as to what's going on at Southside Park now that the snow's all gone and spring is sort of upon us as far as the spring, Southside Pond goes.
Your worship, through the counselor, removal of the excavated material, the planned amount has been completed. So all the work in the pond is done. The restoration is about 80% completed. There should be hydro seeding it later on, either this week or next week. Pavement restoration will probably happen when the plant's open in mid-May.
So if I can continue on with that, then, Mr. Don, expected to be done and ready for Victoria Day long weekend? Hoping?
Your worship, that is correct. I've been working with the Parks Department to make sure of that.
Perfect, thank you. Councillor Wismer Venmere.
Oh, you're going to jump across. Just a couple of points. This week, we're in the middle of National Volunteer Week. So just a big thank you to all of those that volunteer within our community. We are as strong as we are because we have volunteers and people that give tirelessly. So thank you to each and every single person that gives up their time, because there's a saying that it's not that volunteers have the time, it's just that they want to give the time. So, and today is the kickoff to National Youth Week, which runs through till May 7th. And in the middle of that, actually, in the middle of next week, which is the last day of Youth Week, is also National Child and Youth Mental Health Day. So there are some really great resources out there for young people who might need some supports. If you have a young person in your life, whether you know they're struggling or not, I would highly recommend Kids Help Phone has a really great resource online. There's some activities to do, online activities, in-person activities, things that you can just share with a young person, and they can do them at their own discretion, or you can do them with the young person as well. But just make sure you're talking to the young people and paying attention to what's happening. Kids Help Phone has a really good campaign right now that kind of really pushes that message home to just really be paying attention to what's happening. So with National Youth Week, we also have some great activities happening in Woodstock, thanks to the Youth Advisory Committee, who came up with some activities, including pickleball. They have bubble soccer, volleyball. They kick off today with their first event. These are free events that are going to be taking place all through the week. So check out the City of Woodstock website, and a big thank you to the Youth Advisory Committee. They were boots on the ground for maybe 2 months, and we're like, hey, guess what? You get to plan activities for National Youth Week, so have fun with that, and they did a fantastic job. So get out there and enjoy those activities while they're lasting.
Perfect, thank you. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. The executive director, yesterday I was at the retirement for the executive director of Engamo, Diane Harris. And she's been there for 35 years, a dedicated service to the women and children experiencing domestic abuse in this community. A big thanks goes out to Diane for her dedication and caring manner. She is devoted to helping those in need of the services offered for the safety and well-being of those in our community. And from the art gallery, the most recent exhibition, Natural Connections Student Photography, running from April 22nd through June 21st. This collaborative community project was made possible through the generous support of the City of Woodstock and the Forestry Department, with a focus on nature. And this weekend, on May 3rd and 4th, is the Oxford Studio Tour. So there's lots going on this weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tate.
Yeah, just on the mental health children issue. I was reading the other day in the States, they unveiled a monument for children that have died because of social bullying on social media. So it's really important for parents to be aware of what's going on. I know it's tough in this day and age, everybody's got a phone, but social media is very toxic. And as I said before, I think we'll look back in this time and look at what's happened to people, and there'll be big changes. The weather's nice, so get the kids outside, get off the phones, get off the computers, because the mental health for anybody on that is extremely important.
Thank you. Counselor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. So first of all, I will give notice of my resignation to the Community Grants Committee. Feel that the time that I have given to that committee, if decisions are going to be and the policy is going to be not adhered to, that perhaps there's other members of council that would like to give their time on that committee. I'd also like to mention that from a Southwestern public health perspective, there is a boil water advisory for Mount Elgin and for the town of Ingersoll right now. And I want to especially thank staff who actually, there are staff available 24 hours a day in the event of emergencies and a crisis like this to ensure that the news gets out on a boil water advisory. And I also wanted to point out, there's been a lot of conversation about measles lately. We have had an enormous spike in cases in, well, it's in the Southwest region, so that's Oxford, Elgin, St. Thomas. There have been 451 cases in total since this began, but 65 of them have occurred in the past week. 75% of those are children under the age of 18, and 7.8% of them are severe enough to be hospitalized. And so we have a vaccine for measles that has been tried, tested, and true for 55 years. And people are choosing not to vaccinate, and it causes an enormous burden on the healthcare system when 7.8% of people need to access a science-based healthcare system because they have chosen not to vaccinate. So 85% of the cases in the since this has arisen are people who are unimmunized. 3.1% are people who are partially immunized, maybe only had one dose. 6% are unknown, and I didn't realize this until the mayor's breakfast this week when this conversation came up at my table, that I was the only person at my table that still has my little yellow card of vaccinations, and I know whether I've received it. Everyone else at the table would have considered themselves partially unknown and didn't have that little yellow card. So it is incredibly important to keep track of your vaccinations, and if you're at risk to go get another dose. So these are alarming statistics in our community. Measles is so incredibly contagious that if people who were in this audience 2 hours ago and someone had measles, we would all still be exposed to that 2 hours later and at risk if not immunized. So the vaccination does prove to be 97% effective. Not 100%, but 97%, and is the best way to protect family and friends from illness and to protect our healthcare system.
Thank you. Counselor Leatherborough.
I hope everyone has a great afternoon, and just a little thanks to the crossing guards in the city of Woodstock. As Mr. DeHaan's probably familiar, my family has a crossing guard this year, and everyone has fallen in love with Darlene. She gives our kids and the students treats at every holiday, so everybody came home with these jumbo chocolate bunnies. So anyways, I just think of Darlene often, and it's been great for our community, and thanks to all the crossing guards.
That's amazing. Yes, thank you very much. This has certainly been a very busy week. I guess started on the weekend with the MS Walk and Arbor Day this past weekend. I thank Councillor Schanberg and Councillor Leatherborough for joining me on Arbor Day. I guess I joined you because I came a little late. Of course, the mayor's breakfast, as mentioned, it did a State of the City address, and I'd like to say a big thank you to the Woodstock Chamber for hosting that, as well as all those sponsors, Toyota being the largest one that is always there in support, and giving the opportunity to let everybody know what's going on from my perspective. I'd also like to say a thank you to Southgate Center's Learning Unlimited program. I did a really good presentation yesterday. I'm on Woodstock's unhoused population. I've got a few emails today of some very positive response that a lot of people didn't know a lot of things. So I'm going to put it out to the community that it is a presentation I feel comfortable, and I would encourage more community members to learn. So if there's different organizations out there, I'm certainly willing to come out and speak to what the city is doing, try to represent what the county is doing, as well as our community partners like the hospital and CMHA and all the great organizations involved right now. So please, by all means, reach out to my office and arrange something, because again, I think Ms. Collins and staff for putting a great presentation together that kind of worked and explains a lot of things. This afternoon, I have a blood donation. If if it's in you to give, donate if you can. Personally, I hate needles. It's no secret. I don't care how big I am. I hate needles. My nephews have both have spherocytosis. They have a little, their blood's irregular and need occasional injections or transfusions, I'm sorry. So it's my way to give back and make sure that blood's in the system on behalf of my family. I'd like to say a big congratulations to Rory Hook and teammates of the under 13A Junior Navy Vets. They're the OHF champions. Rory, you got a very proud father that made sure I noted that and said something today. They're all Ontario champions, and my understanding it hasn't happened for a junior Navy Vets team since 2005. So I haven't clarified that to be sure, but I guess it's been a while. So congratulations to the Junior Navy Vets organization. Mark your calendars, of course, mentioned it earlier. Victoria Day is weekend, is the 19th, is the parade. Hopefully Southside Park will be all set and ready, and we can all enjoy Southside Park again after all the work done. And with that, looking for an adjournment. Councillor Schadenberg, seconded by Councillor Wismer Van Meer. All those in favor, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Take care.